Why do people worship him 3 years after he's dead, Marty?
The only thing I can pin it on, because I don't know exactly what it is, but as I just touched on a little bit before, back in the 50s and 60s, he was a voice for the teenagers of that time. Well, those teenagers are today adults. They grew up with Elvis through his music and whatever he did, because he didn't bring messages to people. That was one thing he would not do. He himself said, I'm here to entertain. If I make people happy, fine. And those people grew up with him, and they just cherished him back in those times. And what they have done while they've grown up and had children of their own, they have introduced their children to Elvis Presley, because we have seen it so many times in the fans that have come to Memphis that they come with little bitty kids or their own teenagers, and they tell us, you know, because it amazes us that we see 90-year-old women and 2-year-old little girls or 3-year-old little girls, and they're just all in love with Elvis Presley. I think, you know, that's the only thing I can pin it on. You know, you can use the words charisma and magnetism and everything, but there are many people who never saw Elvis in person. They only listened to his music, to his records, and they were still affected the same way.
You were described, and indeed the book describes you as the foreman of the Memphis Mafia. Now, what was the Memphis Mafia, really?
Well, Elvis had a close-knit group of friends who were with him for more than one reason. One, for companionship, and it wasn't a case of paying to have a friend. We all cared about him. He cared about us. But above all, he knew us so well that he trusted us, because when you're thrown into that type of life, you really don't know why somebody likes you, whether it's for money or just to be around or what have you. But I think for the most part, the original Memphis Mafia, the guys, were people who Elvis knew when he was young and grew up with. Billy grew up with him himself as a cousin, and a very, you know, just a close member of family. He just wasn't just another cousin. Throughout the years, there were a couple of guys who were there for what they could get, but they didn't last very long, because Elvis was a very quick judge of character. He had to be. And we were too. A couple were not good, but on the whole, all of them served a purpose. They really were good. You have to remember one aspect of the group and Elvis is that Elvis Presley was a multi-million-dollar business unto himself. And had we been working for General Motors, we would have had responsibilities. We had the same thing with Elvis Presley, to make things run smoother so he could perform and do his job, fulfill his responsibility. So the idea that we've been called all kinds of names, you know, hangers-on, moochers, bloodsuckers, and we just smile at those. Yeah.
What else?
I said they're all true.
The general public saw one side of Elvis, and they didn't know the whole story, and we were who were close to him, closer than anybody in the whole world, did not know the complete Elvis Presley.
One night we had a couple of girls who had came to Memphis a couple of days before, and they couldn't get in, so they had a crate made, and they got inside the crate, and they had their boyfriend to call and actually mail them to Graceland. They were supposed to be animals, you know, dogs for Elvis. And when they got to Graceland, they didn't get any further than the gate, because naturally Vester wanted to check it out and make sure, you know, because there was just not supposed to be any dogs coming to Graceland we knew anything about. So Elvis got so tickled that he finally said, well, just let him up. He said, because anybody go through that much trouble, you know, let him up and I'll meet him. So he had him come up to the house, but that was only one of many instances. They'd climb the fence or anything, you know.
What about things that have happened since he died? People with their devotion to the legend.
It still goes on just as if he was here. I mean, first few months after he passed away, boy, it was rough around Graceland, because they would climb the fence, hide under cars, and everything, you know, just to be there. And it really hasn't changed. I mean, it seems, you know, just as if he were still here. And gosh, what it is, it, you know, keeps them that strong ties between them. I don't know, you know.
But I don't think anybody can think of any other celebrity, be it a politician, a sports celebrity, an entertainer, who has passed away in the history of the world, that many people from all over the world come just to see where they lived, where he's buried. I mean, we've had over 4.5 million people come through the gates of Graceland since Elvis has died. You think of people like John F. Kennedy, and I don't know how it is with Winston Churchill in England, but I don't know of anybody that is in the same category as Elvis, where people travel, as the English fans have, for 2-3 years in a row now. We've got them from Japan, Australia, and so many other places, specifically to see Elvis Presley. It's very hard for people outside of Memphis to realize what's going on. I know people, while Elvis was alive, other entertainers, media people, did not really realize the influence and the power that Elvis had over the general public. They have come to realize it more now since he has passed away, because these people just keep coming and coming, and it's not going to stop. And if they ever open Graceland as a museum, then it will go on forever, really. And I mean millions and millions of people. But in turn, the fans have been ripped off a lot since Elvis has passed away, buying things that they thought were real but were not. We who were close to Elvis are just about the only people who know what was real and what was truth. And we don't mind doing that, because I think, Billy, I think, would agree with me. I think Elvis would get a big kick out of what's going on there.
When you add together the combination of the loneliness and the pressures and so on, it sounds to me as though he didn't really ever get a chance or choose to or was able to enjoy his success. It was a rather sad life.
Again, to a certain degree, that's true, but he enjoyed his success. He liked being who he was.